My sister stole my embryos and got pregnant with my biological children. The moment I realized my sister had stolen my embryos and was raising my biological children as her own was when my niece looked up at me with my own eyes at Thanksgiving dinner, eyes that shouldn't exist on her face, eyes that proved the impossible had happened. I'm Vivienne. I'm 36. And I'm about to tell you how my older sister Corinne committed the perfect crime, got away with it for 2 years, and why she's currently serving 18 years in prison while I'm raising the twins she gave birth to. This isn't a story about sibling rivalry. This is a story about theft, about a nurse who worked at a fertility clinic and saw an opportunity, about how desperation can turn someone you love into a monster you don't recognize. Let me start with the day everything clicked into place, because that's when this stopped being a paranoid theory and became a prosecutable crime. November 26th. Thanksgiving at my parents' house in Portland. The whole family gathered. My parents, Diane and Roland, my brother Tobias with his wife Simone and their daughter, Corinne and her husband Kellen with their 8-month-old twins Marlo and Jasper, and me and my husband Dashiell. The couple everyone pitied because we'd been trying for a baby for 3 years and spent $30,000 on failed IVF. I was sitting on the living room floor with Marlo in my lap, making faces at her. She was at that age where babies really start focusing on faces and responding, giving these huge gummy smiles that make your ovaries ache if you've been struggling with infertility. I looked into her eyes and my brain short-circuited. She had heterochromia, 2 different colors in the same iris, gray-blue with a distinctive green ring around the pupil. It's a rare genetic trait. My grandmother had it. My father has it. I have it. I see it every time I look in a mirror. Corinne has plain brown eyes. Her husband Kellen has hazel eyes. For Marlo to have heterochromia, she'd need the specific genetic combination that runs in my family, not Kellen's family, mine. My hands started shaking. I told myself I was being insane. Baby's eyes change. This meant nothing. I was projecting because I was desperate. Then I noticed her ears. She had attached earlobes. Both Dashiell and I have attached earlobes. It's a recessive trait. You need the gene from both parents. Corinne and Kellen both have detached earlobes. Genetically impossible for their child to have attached earlobes unless someone else was the parent. I looked across the room at Jasper sleeping in his carrier. Really looked at him. He had Dashiell's nose. Not similar. Identical. The same slightly crooked bridge from a break Dashiell got playing hockey in high school. The exact same asymmetry. The room tilted. I couldn't breathe. This was impossible. But the evidence was staring at me from 2 8-month-old faces. My sister Corinne is a registered nurse. She'd worked at Cascade Fertility Center for 9 years, the exact same clinic where Dashiell and I had done our IVF, where we had 7 frozen embryos in storage, where we'd failed 3 transfers and decided to take a 6-month break to recover emotionally. Her miracle pregnancy had happened 4 months into that break. After 12 years of infertility, she'd called me crying with joy, said she was 8 weeks pregnant naturally, with twins. After giving up hope of biological children, I'd been happy for her, devastated for myself. But happy, why wouldn't I be? My sister finally got her miracle after a decade of suffering. Except now, holding Marlo, seeing my own genetic markers on her face, I realized it wasn't a miracle. It was a theft. I made an excuse about feeling sick. Dashiell drove us home. I didn't tell him what I was thinking. It was too insane. Too evil. If I was wrong, I'd destroy our family over a paranoid delusion. That night, I couldn't sleep. Lay in bed, staring at the ceiling while my mind raced through possibilities. Corinne had access to everything at Cascade. Patient files, lab areas, storage tanks. She knew security protocols, shift schedules, every detail of how that clinic operated. She'd been there when I did my egg retrieval, when my embryos were frozen. She had my patient information, my storage location, my medical records. The timeline worked perfectly. If she'd taken embryos in May and implanted them, she'd be 8 weeks pregnant by July when she announced. The math was flawless. But this was my sister. We'd shared a bedroom growing up. She was my maid of honor. I was hers. We talked every day. She wouldn't do this, couldn't do this. Except she'd been desperate. 12 years of infertility does things to your mind. Makes you resentful of women who have what you want. Even your own sister. I needed proof. Couldn't accuse her without certainty. This would detonate our family. Destroy me if I was wrong. I ordered a DNA testing kit. One of those sibling kits that determines if you share parents. Paid extra for rush processing. Now I just needed samples from the twins. Which meant convincing Corinne to let me babysit. Something she'd been avoiding for months. Always made excuses when I offered. Too busy. Twins too fussy. Not ready to leave them. I called my mother. Played the infertility card hard. Said I was struggling emotionally and that bonding with the twins might help. That I needed to feel useful, connected to motherhood even if I couldn't have my own kids yet. Mom called Corinne immediately. I could hear the conversation on speaker. Mom pushing, saying I needed this. That Corinne looked exhausted and deserved a break. That it was just a few hours. Corinne resisted but finally agreed. Set a date for Saturday. 3 hours while she and Kellen saw a movie. Those 6 days waiting felt like torture. I questioned everything. Was I violating my sister's privacy? Traumatizing myself with false hope? What kind of person swabs babies' mouths without permission? But I had to know, had to have certainty before this suspicion poisoned everything between us. Saturday came. Corinne arrived with the twins and 17 pages of typed instructions, feeding schedules down to the minute, nap routines, emergency contacts, diaper cream brands. She was clearly anxious. I promised to call if anything went wrong, watched her drive away. Then I looked at Marlo and Jasper sleeping in their car seats and felt like a criminal. The DNA kit instructions were simple. Swab the inside of their cheeks, get enough cells, seal in collection tubes. Both babies stirred but didn't wake fully. I added my own cheek swab, packaged everything according to instructions. Paid for 7-day rush processing instead of standard 3 weeks. Mailed it that afternoon. Corinne called 4 times during those 3 hours, checking on the twins. I assured her everything was perfect. They were angels. We had a wonderful time. All lies. I'd spent 3 hours having a panic attack about what I'd done and what it might mean. When she picked them up, she looked at me strangely. Asked if I was okay. I said I was just tired. She gathered the babies and left quickly, like she couldn't get away fast enough. The longest 7 days of my life followed. Couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. Snapped at Dashiell, who had no idea what was happening. I told him it was work stress. Hated lying, but couldn't tell him my theory until I had proof. Thursday afternoon. I was working from home. Dashiell at his office. The email notification popped up on my phone. Your DNA results are ready. I stared at that notification for 10 minutes, my finger hovering over it. Once I opened it, everything would change. Either I'd confirm I was delusional, or I'd confirm my sister had committed an unthinkable crime. I clicked. 3 comparison charts loaded. Mine versus Marlo. Mine versus Jasper. Expected relationship. Aunt and niece/nephew. Actual relationship detected. Mother and daughter. Probability 99.98%. Actual relationship detected. Mother and son. Probability 99.99%. I ran to the bathroom and vomited. Then I sat on the cold tile and screamed into a towel so the neighbors wouldn't hear. Screamed until my throat was raw because if I didn't scream, I would completely shatter into pieces. My sister had stolen my embryos, implanted them in herself, carried my babies, given birth to my children, was raising them as her own, had let me play aunt to my own biological children for 8 months. I don't know how long I sat there. Could have been 10 minutes. Could have been an hour. Eventually, I heard the front door. Dashiell calling my name. He'd come home early. Found me on the bathroom floor, mascara everywhere. Towel clutched in my hands. He dropped beside me, asking what happened. Was I hurt? I couldn't speak. Just handed him my phone with the results still open. Watched his face as he read. Confusion first, then understanding, then absolute rage. He read it 3 times. Looked at me. Back at the phone. This is wrong. The lab made a mistake. This can't be real. I showed him everything. The photos comparing features. The timeline, Corinne's access at the clinic. How her pregnancy happened exactly when our embryos were frozen and we'd said we were taking a break. He stood up and punched the wall. Put his fist straight through the drywall, started yelling about killing Corinne. How could she? Those were our babies. She'd stolen our children. I grabbed him. We collapsed together on that bathroom floor. Cried for hours. Our entire reality had shifted. Those twins we'd been holding at family dinners were ours. Biologically ours. And we'd missed everything. Pregnancy, birth, first 6 months, all stolen. We needed a lawyer. This wasn't just confrontation. This was criminal. This was custody. This was going to destroy our family. We found Cecilia Tran, reproductive law specialist. Got an emergency appointment next morning. We brought everything, DNA results, IVF records, photos showing genetic markers, timeline, Corinne's employment history at Cascade. Cecilia listened with her professional mask cracking several times. When we finished, she leaned back and said, "In 20 years of reproductive law, this is the most disturbing case I've ever seen. Criminal charges were certain. Theft of biological material. Fraud. Medical malpractice. Multiple felonies. Serious prison time, but custody was complex. Corinne had carried the twins. Given birth. Raised them 8 months. Bonded with them. Despite zero biological connection, she'd established legal parental rights. This would go to court. Take months or years. The twins' best interests would be paramount. They'd bonded with Corinne as mother. Removing them could traumatize them, but we were biological parents. Had rights too. A judge would decide. Could go either way. Cecilia advised building an airtight case first. Get all medical records from Cascade. File police report. Document everything. Then confront Corinne with legal representation present. Record her response. Dashiell called Cascade, pretending to need our complete file for a second opinion elsewhere. They sent everything within 3 days. The records were damning. A nurse access log showed every time someone opened our file. Corinne's employee ID appeared 43 times. Most were legitimate from when she'd helped during my treatment, but 3 entries stood out. May 9th, May 11th, May 13th. 2 days after I'd announced I was taking a break, she'd accessed our file 3 times in 5 days, despite not being assigned to our case. The embryo storage logs completed the picture. May 15th. 3 of our 7 frozen embryos had been signed out for transfer to long-term storage facility. Standard procedure when patients move embryos to different clinics. Except we'd never requested transfer, never signed consent. The paperwork had forged signatures. I compared them to Corinne's handwriting on old birthday cards. Perfect match. She'd stolen 3 embryos and created false documentation. The remaining 4 were still in storage. But 3 were gone. Used to create Marlo and Jasper. And 1 more that either didn't implant or she miscarried early. We had everything. Paper trail, DNA proof, timeline, motive, access, documentation of theft. We filed a police report. Detective Marcus Chen specialized in medical crimes. Said this was the most disturbing case he'd worked. The district attorney would prosecute aggressively. Detective Chen contacted Cascade's legal department. They cooperated immediately, launched their own investigation, suspended Corinne pending outcome. 2 days later, Corinne called me crying, said there'd been a mistake at work. Someone accused her of inappropriate file access. She was suspended, asked if I knew anything. Could I help? I lied straight to her face, said I had no idea. I was sure it would get sorted out. She had nothing to worry about if she hadn't done anything wrong. My hands shook the entire call. I wanted to scream, ask how she could do this. But our lawyer advised against confrontation until everything was in place. Cascade's investigation moved fast, reviewed all file access, found forged transfer paperwork, confirmed 3 embryos missing, compared handwriting, checked security footage, though tapes from May had been recorded over. They had enough. Their legal team contacted us directly, offered a settlement to avoid lawsuit, $250,000 plus all future fertility treatment costs. We accepted. Needed the money for legal fees and needed them as allies, not enemies. The confrontation was scheduled Tuesday afternoon at Cecilia's office. We told Corinne we'd found a lawyer who might help with her work situation. She jumped at it. Thought we were supporting her. She brought Kellen. Neither had any clue what was coming. They walked into the conference room expecting sympathy. Found Cecilia in a business suit, Detective Chen in the corner, Dashiell and me across the table with a manila folder between us. Corinne's smile died immediately. She looked at me. At Dashiell, at the detective. What's going on? I didn't ease into it, just asked directly. Did you steal our frozen embryos? Did you implant them in yourself? Are Marlo and Jasper our biological children? All color drained from her face. She went chalk white, grabbed the table edge, looked at Kellen with pure panic. Kellen was confused. What is she talking about? I slid the DNA results across the table. Read it. He picked them up. Read slowly. I watched understanding dawn. Watched confusion become shock, become horror. He looked at Corinne like he'd never seen her before. Corinne, what did you do? She started crying. Not apologetic tears, defensive, cornered animal tears. I can explain. You don't understand. It's not what you think. How is stealing my embryos and getting pregnant with my children not exactly what it looks like? My voice shook. I was gripping the table so hard my knuckles were white. She broke. Complete meltdown, words pouring out. She'd been desperate. 12 years trying for a baby, watching me complain about IVF when I had 7 perfect embryos. I didn't appreciate what I had. Called the injections exhausting. Said I needed a break. If I wasn't going to use those embryos, someone should. She deserved to be a mother. She'd wanted it longer. Suffered more. My body failed 3 transfers. Obviously, I couldn't carry a pregnancy. But she could. She'd proven it. She'd only taken 3 embryos. Left 4 for me. Wasn't greedy, just desperate. I should be happy, because now the embryos became actual babies, instead of sitting frozen forever. I sat there listening to my sister rationalize stealing my children, how she'd convinced herself this was justified. That her suffering gave her rights to my genetic material. That her desire outweighed my consent. Dashiell asked through clenched teeth if Kellen knew. She said no. She'd told Kellen it was a miracle, natural pregnancy. He believed her. They'd been trying 12 years. Late pregnancies happen. He had no reason to suspect. Kellen stood abruptly, chair screeching. Those babies aren't mine? Aren't ours? You stole them? Our entire family is built on theft? Corinne reached for him. He jerked away like her touch burned. They are ours, she insisted. I carried them, gave birth, fed them, changed them, loved them 8 months. Biology doesn't matter. I'm their mother. Vivian is just the egg donor. I didn't consent to being a donor, I was shouting. You stole from me, stole my embryos, my pregnancy, my children. 8 months of their lives I'll never get back. Cecilia cut in. Professional. Cold. The district attorney would file criminal charges. Multiple felonies. 10 to 20 years prison. Corinne needed her own lawyer immediately. We'd be pursuing full custody, terminating her parental rights. She'd likely never see the twins again. Corinne started screaming. Actual screaming. We couldn't take her babies. She'd die first. They didn't even know us. This would traumatize them. We were selfish and cruel. Kellen walked out, stood up and left without a word to Corinne. She called after him. He didn't turn around. Filed for divorce. That same day I found out later. Security escorted Corinne out. She was crying hysterically, threatening to run, to hurt herself. Detective Chen told her if she fled with the twins, additional charges would be filed. She was arrested 3 hours later at her house. The twins were there. Child Protective Services came. Emergency custody to the state while the case was investigated. 1 night in state care before placement, with my parents pending legal outcome. Everyone agreed on this. My parents were neutral ground. Loved the babies. Could provide stability. My mother called sobbing that night. Didn't understand how this was real. How her daughter could do something so evil. She was torn between us. Loved Corinne, but was horrified. Loved the twins desperately, but now knew they were my children stolen from me. My father showed up at our house instead of calling. Hugged me 10 minutes without speaking. Then said, I'm sorry I didn't protect you from her. I should have seen it. Nobody could have predicted this. This wasn't sibling rivalry. This was criminal psychopathy. The story hit news within days. Local first, then national. CNN, MSNBC, Fox. Sister steals sister's embryos from fertility clinic was sensational enough for everyone. Media camped outside our houses. Outside the jail. Our lives became public entertainment. Corinne's mugshot was everywhere, looking tired and angry and defiant. She posted bail after 3 days. Her parents mortgaged their house. Ankle monitor. House arrest except court and lawyer meetings. The preliminary hearing was brutal. I testified about IVF. Finding out. DNA results. Corinne's lawyer tried painting me as vindictive. DNA evidence shut that down. Corinne pleaded not guilty initially. Claimed embryos were abandoned. We'd given up. She'd rescued them from destruction. Prosecution destroyed that in minutes. Showed medical records proving we'd taken a 6-month break. Never abandoned anything. Never consented to donation. Never knew embryos were missing until our investigation. She changed her plea to guilty 2 weeks later. Would negotiate sentencing. Argue mental health issues. Temporary insanity from infertility grief. Prosecution wasn't having it. Pushed for maximum. This was premeditated. Calculated. She'd accessed files, forged documents, stolen biological material, committed fraud. Not a crime of passion. Sustained criminal conspiracy. Sentencing hearing was 8 months after arrest. Longest 8 months of my life. Corinne's lawyer brought psychologists. Testified about infertility trauma, how it causes mental breaks, makes people act irrationally. Corinne wasn't a criminal. She was a desperate woman who'd made a terrible mistake while not in her right mind. Prosecution brought reproductive rights experts. Testified about bodily autonomy, the profound violation of having genetic material stolen, psychological impact of having children stolen before they were born. I testified. Described watching Corinne's pregnancy while being denied my own, watching her give birth to my biological children, bonding with them as aunt when I was their mother. 8 months stolen I'd never get back. First smiles, first laughs, first milestones, all witnessed by someone who stole that right. Dashiell testified. Described finding me on the bathroom floor. DNA results. Realizing twins he'd been playing with were his biological children. That he'd missed their birth. Newborn phase. Everything. The judge was Martha Sterling. Family court for 30 years. Seen everything. Even she looked shaken. Her sentencing statement destroyed Corinne. Judge Sterling said this was one of the most egregious bodily autonomy violations she'd encountered. Corinne hadn't just stolen embryos. She'd stolen our reproductive future, our chance at genetic parenthood, our pregnancy experience, our newborn bonding, first 8 months as parents. Infertility grief wasn't an excuse for committing crimes against other infertility patients. Corinne had betrayed her sister, her profession, every ethical code governing reproductive medicine. The twins would be traumatized regardless. But that was Corinne's fault. Her choices. Her crimes. She'd created an impossible situation where children she'd bonded with would be removed from the only mother they knew. She had no one to blame but herself. Judge Sterling sentenced her to 18 years. No parole possibility for 12 years. Permanent nursing license revocation. Felony record. Her life as she knew it was over. Corinne screamed when the sentence was read. Collapsed. Had to be carried out by bailiffs. Our mother sobbed in the gallery. Our father sat stone-faced. I felt nothing. Just empty. The custody battle took another year. Longest, most painful year of my life. Corinne's lawyer argued from prison she'd bonded with twins. Removing them from the only mother they knew would cause severe developmental trauma. She deserved some contact. Supervised visitation at minimum. Our lawyer argued Corinne had no legal right to children stolen through crimes. Her bond was built on lies and felonies. Allowing contact would reward her for committing crimes. The guardian ad litem representing the twins' interests was Patricia Valdez. She interviewed everyone. Observed twins with Corinne at jail. With my parents. With us during supervised visitation. Her report was heartbreaking. Twins were clearly bonded to Corinne. Called for her. Recognized her voice. Calmed when she held them. But that bond was established through criminal acts. Couldn't continue. Dashiell and I were gentle and appropriate, but they didn't recognize us yet. We were strangers to our biological children. But with time and consistency, we could build that bond. We were their parents. Had rights superseding Corinne's. She recommended full custody to us. Termination of Corinne's parental rights. Zero contact given crime severity, and Corinne's continued justification in prison interviews. Judge agreed. Full legal and physical custody to us. Complete termination of Corinne's rights. Zero contact ever. No letters, no photos, nothing. When Judge Sterling read the decision, she said something I'll never forget. These children were stolen from you before they were born. But they are yours. Biologically, genetically, legally. You are their parents. I trust you'll help them understand their story when they're ready. They are yours. Marlo and Jasper came home when they were 20 months old. Old enough to know something changed. Young enough to adapt. The transition was brutal. They cried for Corinne constantly. Called for mama. Didn't understand where she'd gone. Why strangers had them. Every crying fit was a knife in my chest, even though I was furious at Corinne. These babies were confused and scared. None of this was their fault. We worked with child psychologists. Attachment therapists. Learned specific techniques. Had them sleep in our room initially, constant skin-to-skin contact. Fed them ourselves. Read to them obsessively, 4 months before they started attaching. 4 months of crying and rejection, and wondering if we'd permanently damage these children by removing them from the only mother they knew, even though she'd stolen them. Slowly, they started seeking us for comfort. Smiling when we entered rooms. Calling us mama and dada. Those first times they said it willingly, not while crying for Corinne. I sobbed. They're 5 now. Marlo is obsessed with dinosaurs. Jasper loves art. They're in kindergarten. Have friends. Happy adjusted kids. They know their story. Age-appropriate version. They know they grew in Aunt Corinne's tummy, but we're their real parents. Aunt Corinne made bad choices. She's in timeout for grown-ups called prison. When they're older, we'll tell them everything. They don't remember Corinne. Don't ask about her. Their first memories are of us. We are their parents in every way. Biology, love, law, everything. But I mourn what was stolen. I'll never have pregnancy photos with them, never feel them kick, never give birth, never bring them home from hospital as newborns. Corinne stole all that. Those first 20 months. All stolen. Corinne is still in prison, eligible for parole in 7 years. I hope she never gets it. She writes letters to my parents asking about the twins. For photos. They refuse. She made her choice. My relationship with my parents survived, but it's different. They love Marlo and Jasper desperately, but there's grief underneath. Grief for Corinne. For the family we were. For the grandmother relationship they thought they had that was built on crimes. We used our remaining 4 frozen embryos 2 years ago. Transferred 2. Both implanted. I was pregnant with twins again. Different twins. Got to experience pregnancy this time. Every kick. Every milestone. Every ultrasound. We have 2-year-old twin boys now. Marlo and Jasper are amazing big siblings. I thought I'd hate pregnancy. That it would remind me of what Corinne stole. But it was healing. Getting to experience what she'd taken. Proving my body could carry babies. Those failed transfers were just bad luck, not my fault. Our family is complete. 4 children. Chaos and love and exhausting days. Everything I dreamed of during dark infertility years. But I still have nightmares. Still wake up panicking someone's going to take my children. Still check their rooms obsessively. Trauma doesn't disappear just because you got a happy ending. Corinne stole more than embryos. She stole my trust. My sense of safety. My relationship with my sister. My ability to feel completely secure. People always ask if I'll ever forgive her. Whether I'll let her meet Marlo and Jasper when she's released? The answer is no. Never. She's not their mother, not their aunt. She's the criminal who stole them. She'll never know the people they've become. Marlo wants to be a veterinarian. Jasper wants to design buildings like his dad. They have hopes and dreams and personalities, and none of it has anything to do with Corinne. She stole their beginning. But she doesn't get their future. That belongs to Dashiell and me, because we're their parents. Always were, always will be. But here's what keeps me up at night. What I've never told anyone except Dashiell and my therapist. When we got our medical records from Cascade, they showed 3 embryos were taken. Marlo and Jasper account for 2. But there was a 3rd embryo. Corinne's medical records from her pregnancy show she was initially pregnant with triplets, lost one at 9 weeks, common with multiples. She grieved it. We all did. Thought it was her biological child, but it was mine. I lost a child I didn't know existed. A 3rd baby that could be here right now if Corinne hadn't stolen and implanted 3 embryos at once for better odds. I have 2 5-year-olds and 2 2-year-olds, but I should have had 5 children. That phantom 5th child haunts me. The one who didn't make it because of my sister's crimes. I'll never know if it was a boy or girl. What they would have looked like. Who they would have become. That loss lives inside me alongside the grief for the pregnancy and newborn phase I missed with Marlo and Jasper. Corinne took 3 embryos. Only 2 survived to term. She created my children and killed one of them through her crimes. And she'll never face consequences for that, because legally it was her miscarriage, even though biologically it was my child. That's the part that breaks me when I let myself think about it. I have 4 beautiful, healthy children. I'm grateful, but I mourn the 5th, the one who never had a chance because of my sister's theft. Sometimes I wonder if Corinne thinks about that. If she grieves that lost triplet, knowing it wasn't biologically hers. If she feels guilt for the child she created through theft and then lost. Probably not. In her letters to my parents, she still insists she did nothing wrong, that she rescued abandoned embryos, that she deserves to see her children. She's delusional. Even prison and losing everything hasn't made her accept what she did. So that's my story. That's how my sister committed the perfect crime until Thanksgiving dinner when I looked into my niece's eyes and saw my own face staring back. The crime wasn't perfect after all. She got caught. Justice was served. I got my children back. But the scars remain. The trust destroyed. The family shattered. The experiences stolen. The child lost. Corinne is in prison for 12 more years minimum. Marlo and Jasper are thriving. We have 4 kids and a full, chaotic, beautiful life. But I'll never get those 20 months back. Never get that lost 3rd child back. Never get my sister back because the person I loved doesn't exist anymore. If she ever did, that's the real cost of what she did. Not just the crime itself, but everything it destroyed that can never be rebuilt. And that's something no prison sentence can ever make right.